The accession of King Charles to the throne has been choreographed to the last detail. By seeing Charles grieve, we're supposed to sympathise with him as he adopts and occupies the most privileged position in the country. When we see him meeting crowds, we're supposed to see him as a man of the people. But even with decades to plan this, the palace PR team has been unable to completely avoid any moment where the royal mask slips. This was a scene at King Charles's proclamation. So as you can see there, he is shooing away the ink. Very, very stuck up. He doesn't seem like he is treating the person who is working there with a great deal of respect. Now, that video has been viewed 17 million times on Twitter, so it's clearly struck a chord, and he did it a second time. So you can see here, this is when he's sitting down, and again, here he gets very, very annoyed that someone is not taking his pens away. This is a person who has clearly forgotten how to use his own hands. Ash. People have argued we should give King Charles a break. He's grieving, but that wasn't a normal way to treat someone, was it?
No, and the fact is that King Charles III, as I now suppose we have to call him, has fallen with this long before his mother passed away. It was reported that he has a manservant squeeze out his toothpaste for him in the morning. This is somebody who has grown up with a level of luxury and obsequiousness that the rest of us mere mortals couldn't possibly imagine. And I think that there's going to be some difficulties, as I sort of predicted last week, in how the public understand King Charles as a personality compared to his mother. Now, regardless of whether or not this had a basis in fact, this was something which was very much cemented in perception, that Elizabeth II grew up during World War II. She was very much a roll up her sleeves and get it done kind of woman. It was always reported that she was a mechanic during the war. And one of the things which visitors to Balmoral especially loved to talk about was that, she liked getting, muddy in her walking boots, and she'd drive you around the landscape in her Land Rover and would come across as very humble. Now, of course, I don't know how humble a person can be when they're literally festooned in diamonds and issuing proclamations from a solid gold throne, but, we're grading on a curve here. Prince Charles, however, doesn't have that same claim to duty and unfussiness and unpretentiousness. And it's in these weird moments where he is gesturing frantically and through gritted teeth to a servant to move away a little finicky pen holder, that you just realize how weird this guy must be. So if it was just a case of this was one weird outburst and there hadn't been any previous reports of things like squeezing out the toothpaste, I'd be, look, the guy's grieving, this is really high pressure, leave it out. But I actually think there's something a bit deeper here. And as you said, the fact that this is a bit of footage which has gone so viral tells you that for lots of people, it strikes a chord with how they perceive his character. So he's working a bit uphill in terms of cementing himself in the public's heart in the same way that his mother was able to.
What I learned from this is it's not that King Charles speaks to people who work for him like that, or, signals to people who work for him like that. This is the most privileged person in the country. It's not surprising that he's not particularly humble when he interacts with people. What I thought was interesting here, though, was that this performance isn't as seamless as I thought at one point it might be. Because obviously the royals, we know they are incredibly privileged. We know they are not going to be humble people. But part of their legitimacy comes from their ability to perform humility and to perform duty. And the sort of entitlement you saw there, to me, that looked like the opposite of service. It looked like someone who constantly wants service, not someone who is willing to give service. And the mask slipping there, I thought was interesting, because I do think that if Prince Charles, even though he has had decades and decades and decades to practice this, can't even get his proclamation right, then there are surely going to be a few hiccups down the road. Now, whether that is not being able to keep it a secret that he has political opinions and that he wants to influence politics, or not being able to hide his arrogance and the arrogance and stuck-upness that comes with intense privilege, I do feel if we see more of these slip-ups, then there could be a problem for the monarchy. So we will keep looking out for them.